Morning, lambs. How's it going, everyone? We recently added some sheep to the homestead. 3 ewe lambs, and so far they've been doing really well. We have this one area fenced off for them in between my orchard and my garden. But it's been a couple weeks now that we've had the sheep, and in that time I was able to fence off everything in our orchard. I got every fruit tree and fruit bush fenced off in here. I got a nice layer of wood chips down for mulch, and I used a whole pile of compost that we've been cooking up for about a year or so now and spread it on top of all these trees. So the orchard's looking really healthy. These trees were well overdue for some compost. There is a lot of fruit coming in, and the sheep have been in here a little bit. They've really eaten the grass down in a short amount of time, but I moved them back into their regular paddock or pasture area because they're eating too much of my fruit trees. And they ate a lot of the grass down. Like, it's looking good in here. It's definitely to the point where I don't have to mow, but I should have enough chickens to keep this grass down for me. So I got everything fenced off in here for the sheep and also for the chickens, because the chickens love to dig in all the wood chips that I'm using as mulch. So I have my mobile coop in here. They have all my laying hens and roosters that are part of my initial flock, but I also have a new batch of laying hens, newly out of the brooder, and they're in this A-frame chicken tractor, I guess you can call it, coop for them that we built because they were getting too big for the brooder and they needed to get out on grass, but we needed something for them to be in without going right into our main mobile coop, because I think our rooster would take offense to that. So we framed out this little A-frame thing. There's some hardware cloth on the bottom, which kind of gives them a window to see out and for the other chickens to come up and see them and interact with them, and hopefully they get to know each other a little bit so they can coexist in this orchard long term. So until they get a little bit older, they're gonna stay in this chicken tractor and be my pinpoint lawnmower. I'm in my blueberry patch right now. I have my meat birds out here. This is a batch of 25. I have these guys in an electric netting and in a mobile coop that I built. So plus I back this up next to it, so they have a pretty giant area here of coverage. It gives them a lot of shade on sunny days and a lot of protection from the hawks and owls that call this area home as well. The coolest thing about all these meat birds is my blueberries that I planted over here last year. There's 75 in here, and there's about another 10 or 15 over in my food forest slash orchard area back over there. I've noticed that the ones over here are much further ahead than the ones over in my orchard, and the biggest difference is there's been chickens over here for these blueberries almost their entire life over here, or time planted in the ground over here. I didn't have any mulch on them, didn't put any compost on them, anything like that. Which they have now, so they're good there. But they did have these little meat machines running through here, digging up all the grass and pooping all over, and these bushes seem to be huge fans of that. I got them all fenced off this year because last year they did kill a couple. And these bushes are way bigger than the ones I have in my orchard, and I think the meat birds are a huge reason for that. So having chickens on my blueberry patch really helped out that entire area, but over on the rest of our homestead, in my garden, my pasture area, my food forest slash orchard, we have the sheep and the rest of the laying hens. And that's a big reason for moving my hens into my orchard. That we used to have a coop outside of the orchard that was more permanent. Now we have a mobile coop, and I really want to start using my animals to help the overall fertility of everything that I'm growing here. I'm planning on keeping my chickens in there most of the year and really letting them get to work on the grass and fruit trees in there, and hopefully they can be a huge help to that area like the meat birds were in my blueberry patch. Hopefully over a long period of time there's some pretty drastic benefits from having them in there. And now also I can move the sheep in behind them, and I'm planning on kind of using the sheep to go in and keep the grass down a little bit. I don't want them in there too much because they can still eat some of the trees, but I still think it's going to be a net positive even with them eating some trees and maybe some blueberry bushes, because of how beneficial they can be to grass and pasture and everything like that. They're going to keep the grass down. I read that they aerate the soil a little bit with their hooves, and they're gonna be dropping nitrogen behind them wherever they go. Couple that with the chickens going back behind the sheep and picking through their droppings to find what they like and spreading that out everywhere. I think that this place is gonna take some huge steps, especially after thinking what a few months of having some meat chickens around some blueberry bushes we're doing. This is kind of like the next level beyond that, where we're gonna have like 30, 40 hens hopefully, and some sheep. I might have to get some more working their way through here. Working on improving this pasture, the grass in here, and hopefully having some healthier fruit trees and bushes because of it. Not to mention the protein that both of these are going to be providing. And same thing for the garden area that I'm in right now. After this garden's all done this year, I'm planning on, now that I have a mobile coop, getting all of the chickens in here during the months like October, November, maybe even December. We'll see how the weather goes and all that. But I want to have my chickens in here for as long as I possibly can before it gets too cold, before I have to get them back up to a greenhouse. I have this whole area here I'm gonna keep my chickens on, and then when the garden's all done for the year, let them work through these raised beds. And this whole area I'm gonna be turning from grass into potato beds and things like that. So I've already started that process a little bit here, but there is gonna be plenty of stuff for them to dig through and to spread some more nitrogen and increase the overall fertility of this entire area. Another thing I'm gonna be doing with my animals though, or at least the plan right now, we'll see how things actually unfold. Supposed to be having some logging work completed. So in the next couple months, the logging company we signed a contract with last year is supposed to be getting back out here and finishing up our contract. Part of that includes clearing out a large patch of woods right behind our fence area here. So we should be getting more space on the outside of our entire fenced off area here for our garden, orchard, and now our sheep pasture. So the plan is to fence off as much as this new area as we can. It's hard to really plan it out until you see what it looks like when it's all done. We should have a pretty good chunk of space in a few different areas. So we're gonna try to fence in as much as we can, and then put the sheep in there and let the chickens go in there a little bit and try to transform that area from the undergrowth of woods into some pasture and more areas to plant fruit trees, have sheep. I'm really excited to see what these animals can do with the rest of our property here, but I see an entire transformation of this property in the next few months.